Hi, this is Drew Dinsick of NBC Sports EDGE. I hope you are enjoying our NFL previews, of course, on the NFL and NBC YouTube channel. We now get to the Super Bowl champion division. The LA Rams and the NFC West are up next for us, Warren. This is going to be an interesting handicap, and I cannot wait to hear your takes on some of these teams because the NFC West is loaded again. Of course, having the Super Bowl champions doesn't hurt you as far as the division goes, but Niners, Cardinals both made the playoffs last year. This is a pretty clear tier of three teams that I think all, the market has reasonable expectations could win this division. Rams are plus 125 right now to win the West. Niners at plus 190. Cardinals looking at plus 325. And the Seattle Seahawks a distant fourth at 14-1. Let's start with the Seahawks at the bottom here. And it is clear to see why they are the fourth choice in this division, considering that as of this moment, Geno Smith is beating out Drew Lock for the quarterback position, which means in the year 2022, Geno Smith would probably be the 32nd ranked starting quarterback among all starters. And if quarterback is the most important position in terms of making a power ranking, then it is entirely reasonable to see why the Seattle Seahawks win total is just 5.5. If you want to bet over 5.5, you got to lay minus 130. If you want to bet under 5.5, you got to lay plus. You actually get plus 110. And it's tempting to take an under position on this team, considering what's going on in the quarterback room. But the Seahawks managed to find a way. Pete Carroll does tend to at least rally the troops and get his players to play for him. And of course, they do have a nice home field advantage up in the Pacific Northwest. However, I don't really see many reasons beyond that to be positive about this Seahawks team. Where are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling that the quarterback is the most important position in NFL, and you went from one of the best with an offense that threw the ball down the field 20-plus yards at the highest rate in terms of percentage of all their passes in the Seattle Seahawks last year, and threw it down there well because they had Russell Wilson, and he was capable of doing those things, and he made great decisions inside the red zone typically, to a team that now, as you mentioned, is in a dogfight this camp between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. I just feel like this team blew a massive opportunity to do something positive because their coach is stuck in the past. So I lean towards their under. I got it at a little bit of a better number. I would still probably lean in that direction, but it was not one of the larger positions that I have this offseason, simply because you never know what Pete can get out of that orange when he squeezes it, and how much they could get. But this is not going to be a great team this season by any means, and they're absolutely due for massive step backwards without Russ, in my opinion.
This Cardinals team, which was so underwhelming in their playoff loss last year, now is going to be asked to do it with less talent and some pieces in place that we know don't have the goods. Is there anything about this handicap that I'm missing in terms of the Cardinals not repeating the success we saw in 2021?
Well, I think there's a couple things from being able to repeat that are absolutely not going to happen on the field. The first one that was the most glaring in my offseason research was the Arizona Cardinals converted 52% of their 3rd and 7+ situations passing the football. 52%. Now, the NFL average is 31%. Where does 52% rank in the history books, the annals of NFL history? Number one, the best team in NFL history at converting these situations. The prior year in 2020, no, this isn't just a Kyler Murray thing. He was down in the mid 20% range. So 52%, they're absolutely not going to come close to hitting 52% in 2022. They're not going to be converting as many of these 3rd and longs. So they're going to stay out of these 3rd and longs more frequently. They're going to be punting the ball a little bit more often. I don't think that their short yardage run game is also going to be as efficient next season. Rodney Hudson made a big improvement last season with his addition, but this team is not going to be able to get as much on the ground, in my opinion, in short yardage this year. And that's why I do think we're going to see more punts and more field goals from the Arizona Cardinals this upcoming season. The other thing that we have seen along the way is that Kyler Murray, he is short. He needs to run around more to make things happen for his offense, and he puts a lot of miles on those legs, and he ends up getting nicked up and banged up almost every single season. He doesn't necessarily miss games. He plays through these injuries. Oftentimes, whether it's a shoulder or if it's his legs or lower body, he needs to be less mobile. And that just changes the offense entirely. It makes them far less efficient. And it's a big reason why they tend to tail off during the course of the season. And by the end of the season, this team's not able to win games like they were to start the season. When they're winning games is typically at the beginning of the season. Cliff Kingsbury, every stop that he's been, and Kyler Murray in the NFL, they win games early, they lose games late. It's a big problem for them this season because they play the number one most difficult schedule of any team in the NFL from week 10 onwards. That's also the time when they're going to have DeAndre Hopkins back because he's going to miss the first 6 games when the team is typically really good. So he's not there. You also lost Christian Kirk as a wide receiver last year, who's now down in Jacksonville. So you're out your top 2 wide receivers over the last couple of years. You're replacing them with a much smaller Marquise Brown. I don't have a lot of confidence in the upside of a guy like Zach Ertz. He doesn't do nothing after the catch. And the first 3 weeks of the season is the most difficult schedule for any team in the NFL as well, when they're playing the Chiefs and the Raiders and the LA Rams. So they're in a brutal schedule when they're typically good, but they're playing without their DeAndre Hopkins at that point. They'll probably win some games in that middle portion of the schedule, week 4 onwards, but then they're going to face this really difficult schedule. Kyler could get beat up. They're not going to be as good on third downs. And I just see a lot of regression coming for this team. And so, we're going to talk about our bets at the end. Under 9.5 was a bet I took earlier. It's down to 9, and there's some 8.5s, mostly 8.5s out there now. I still would look for those 9s and bet under 9. I just think, yes, the Cardinals are great, and Kyler is a really good quarterback when he's healthy, but this wide receiving core is different, and I just don't have a lot of confidence in their upside to stay healthy and to win games when it counts against a brutal schedule down the stretch.
That all makes sense, and it does spell regret about how much money was given out in terms of contracts this offseason for the Cardinals, but their current win total 8.5, even juice either side. I could only bet that under. I don't think realistically there's a case that this team surprises to the good, but you never know. The San Francisco 49ers are an entirely different handicap because, in my opinion at least, this is a team with the widest range of outcomes of any team in the NFL. I don't think there's any team that you can realistically say has a ceiling in the teens in terms of wins, but a floor in the 6 or 7 win range. That is an enormous range, and it is entirely contingent upon the development of their young quarterback, Trey Lance. Trey Lance is a completely unknown quantity. He had virtually no opportunities to learn the position as the QB1 when Jimmy G was responsible for things last year, and they have now dedicated the entire offense to him through this offseason cycle heading into 2022. And if he gives you your typical first year starter level of performance, this Niners team is going to underachieve, even though they have a roster that is one of the most talented in the NFL, particularly on the defensive side of the football. And it's tough to really see how this breaks either way, but I kind of want to be bullish on this Niners team just because the NFC overall, if you've kind of gotten anything out of all these previews we've done so far, it's a lot weaker than the AFC this year. Those are the facts. And so I feel like the Niners do have the potential to put together like a Lamar Jackson and Baltimore MVP campaign type of season if Lance has the goods. But if he doesn't, this is going to be a frustrating season for both Niners and Niners fans. Where do you fall on the spectrum of this team? And or is it best to just sit back and watch it play out and try to make some decision in season?
I don't want to have to go that route. I would like to try to feel confident about a position on these guys. I do want to be more bullish on them than the market is. But I'm hoping that the market falls back a little bit. I'm hoping that the continued reports out there are Trey Lance isn't looking good and we can get maybe some better numbers. I do have a lot of confidence in Kyle Shanahan more than anything. I think that he is going to be able to change this offense in a unique manner to play a little bit more to the strengths of this quarterback. We talked about the reason that they drafted him. He's got the big arm. He could throw the ball down the field. But because he runs the ball like he can, he commands an extra player in the box to help defend it. And Kyle talked a lot after they drafted him about what that does to the looks down the field. And we know that Jimmy G was like one of the least accurate quarterbacks throwing the ball down the field. So I think we're going to see some higher upside of those explosive plays from this team in 2022. But the concerning part is that bankable efficiency underneath that Jimmy G was able to deliver, we probably aren't going to get from Trey Lance.
I feel like I had my hand forced a little bit. I made a couple of, high payout, up to the upside bets on this team. And I felt my hand was forced largely because they start the season at Chicago and versus Seattle. If you've watched these previews, those are the two worst teams in the NFC outside of the Atlanta Falcons, which means the Niners, even with an uneven performance from Lance, should still be able to get out to a couple of wins. But, the question is, even if Lance delivers a playoff berth via the wild card, I don't believe him to be a quarterback that I'm going to bet on in those wild card games on the road. Not in his first year. So, this is still the Rams division to lose. The market again is at plus 125 for them to win the West. And it has been a while since we've seen a team win the Super Bowl and come into the next season effectively returning everyone and have less buzz. There's not really many people kind of planting their flag saying the Rams are going back. The Rams going to Glendale. This is the clear best team in the NFC, despite the fact that they have the best defensive player in the NFL in Aaron Donald. They have a clear top 10 quarterback in Matt Stafford, and maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL in Cooper Kupp. And so it's confusing to me why there's not a little bit more momentum that this team's going to be a Super Bowl contender this year. And I can only kind of point to it's still a pretty fragile situation with the way they built this roster. It was stars and scrubs last year. They got lucky. No one got hurt. It's stars and scrubs this year. And I think people are a little hesitant that it's going to be quite as, lucky in terms of player availability. Their win total at 10.5, again, for all of the elite players, blue chip guys that are on this team, seems impossibly low. Is there anything I'm missing about the way the market perceives the Rams this year?
No, I think the one just additional nugget to throw in there as to why the market may not be higher on them is we saw them narrowly beat Joe Burrow. All the buzz was on Joe Burrow in that game. And then the prior game, they narrowly beat Jimmy G in the NFC Championship. Jimmy's playing, with a less than 100% hand. And then we saw Tom Brady come back to Tampa Bay. And I feel like if Tom retired and didn't come back, I think we would be buzzing more about the Rams and Matthew Stafford. But with Tom coming back, I think it definitely took a little bit of the buzz away from the LA Rams. I mean, still very good team, very well coached team with a very good quarterback. Last year, Matthew Stafford, he has some high highs with some of the throws and the arm talent that he's got, but then there's some question mark throws and some just question mark plays that they also mix in there a little bit as well. They will be healthier at the running back position. I think they'll be more efficient when they run the football, so they won't have to rely as much passing the ball down in the red zone. They'll have a little bit more that they can get out of the run game, in my opinion, which will help this offense in general. This is not a team that I'm looking to bet against. I have not bet on them yet, but I'm not looking to bet against them. Whereas we talked about another powerhouse in a different division preview, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm looking to try to bet other teams to get over top of Tampa and figure out other ways around Tampa. I'm not really trying to do that with the Rams because I agree with a lot of what you said. And they're a solid team that has a very good shot if they stay healthy, which the reality is you can say that about every team. And what is crazy about the Rams is this is the healthiest team in the NFL since Sean McVay took over this squad.
Yes, Rams kind of proving that maybe injury avoidance is a skill. I mean, is that possible?
I don't know.
I mean, if you're going to invest in a good training, staff, if you're going to get kind of the best, that science can offer in terms of keeping your players healthy, then it's not crazy to me. I mean, certainly there's the inverse, I think, might prove this. Like the teams that don't invest wisely in their training rooms, have had bad injury luck. Certainly, I wouldn't put the Niners in that conversation, but there's some other teams that will remain nameless that I think would qualify. But yeah, Rams right now 11-1 to win the Super Bowl. Is that a bet? It's tough to say. I feel like the NFC is wide. The NFC looks wide open to me outside of the Rams being the only kind of, quote unquote, sure thing to be in the mix. So either way, I think it's going to be a fantastic season. I think the NFC offers a lot of betting opportunity, as we mentioned, with some of the long shots. What is the one bet that you think is worth putting in your pocket in the NFC West?
Yeah, I want to answer that question and say the Arizona Cardinals under their win total. But I also want to add that this is the conference, the NFC, that I have been looking to take some more of the longer shots in and stacking some things together. Like if you think Trey Lance has a shot, then Lance MVP, couple with Niners over, couple with Niners to make the playoffs, those types of things, wrapping some of those up a little bit, doing the same type of thing for a team like the Vikings or some of the other teams that you like in this conference that you think could have a shot, because I am a little bit more down on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have not done anything yet with the Rams to win the Super Bowl or the Rams to win the NFC. But, having spoken with you here today and recording some of these videos, like it doesn't seem like that's the worst thing in the world to start looking into further.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of let the market being a little cool on them influence my decision making about how I've approached their futures more than I should have. Decent chance in my mind that the first game of the season and the last game of the season are the same game, and that is Bills-Rams. But we'll save our predictions for when we wrap up the AFC. Thank you, as always, for joining us. Of course, you can find all of our content, video content here, NFL on NBC, and be sure to check out our AFC previews coming up next week.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.